Hello, I'm Steve Ryder. Welcome back to Racing Weekly, a podcast and YouTube show brought to you by oddschecker in association with bet365. It's a strange time of the year. We're coming towards the start of the flat season and the end of the jump season. With Rishi covering the snooker, I brought in two top guests to help me out this week. I've got Paul Ferguson and Anthony Ennis. Anthony, I suppose obviously with yourself, you've got to have eyes on both codes with regards to commentary-wise. What have you thought of the flat season so far?
It's a strange start, isn't it, the flat season, I find, Steve, because obviously it gets underway at Doncaster in terms of the turf. Then you have no sort of turf racing for a few weeks, really, until the Craven, like in terms of proper racing. And then you had the all-weather finals day. Because of the late Easter, it was sort of 2 weeks later than it normally is as well, wasn't it? So it's been a bit of a strange start to the season, but I think it's getting going. We've seen some good performances. We saw John Gosden hit form, didn't we, at the Craven meeting with a vengeance with the two winners there of the Nell Gwyn and the Craven. So, yeah, it's really getting going now, isn't it? Now that the all-weather season is kind of behind us, that we can really focus on the flat. But obviously, as you say, the jump season is coming to a thrilling conclusion, isn't it, with its Trainers' Championship. So it's still that crossover period. Yeah,
that's been the one note from me so far is the Gosden stable and Kieran Schumacher. They've really hit the ground running after I'm sure everyone would kind of acknowledge the fact that it was a below-par season for them. They had some nice two-year-olds come out towards the end of last season that I want to touch on later on in the show with regards to the Sandown card. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what sort of season they have.
It is. And Field of Gold, of course, who disappointed a bit in his final start as a two-year-old, but that performance, the way he handled the dip at Newmarket was impressive, wasn't it? And he lengthened as well. And he looked the real deal, didn't he? What is he, 5-2 now for the Guineas, that sort of price? But he looks like the horse that could be hard to beat and go one better than his side did in the race, of course.
Definitely. And Paul, obviously we had you on for the first episode of the jump season. We'll have a quick look back kind of at our jumpers to follow segment. I suppose Hello Neighbour was the one that hit closest for myself. 25s for the Triumph, went off 7-2 and obviously ran okay. But yeah, you had a couple of nice highlights as well.
Yeah, it was good. Obviously, bookend the campaign, being back on. It's good to be back on. I think the season as a whole I really enjoyed it this year. And I think the Spring Festivals, I think the difference this year was the ground. I think we got, both at Cheltenham and Aintree, we got genuine spring ground for the first time in a couple of years. We've been bogged down over the years, haven't we, on soft ground at the festivals recently, but I think that made a difference. And as you say, at least a couple of the horses to follow that we put up at the start of the season performed well.
Yeah, I suppose the one that I highlighted on a show, on our Aintree review, was Gidley Park. I loved his run, obviously in defeat at Aintree. I thought I was in a different camp to what Tom Scudamore thought. I thought dropping down to 2 miles might suit him with how well he jumped. But Scu seemed to think that stepping up might go for him.
Yeah, it seems. I think I actually put him up on the preview season show in the last 2 years, I think, actually. He's always I've loved since he obviously beat the Jukebox Man in his bumper at Chepstow a couple of years ago. And this year, as you say, he's obviously had an interrupted campaign. Going to Aintree on the back of basically one run of what happened to him at Kempton early season. He was obviously impressive at Windsor, and that form was franked by Caldwell Potter, no end, at both Cheltenham and Aintree. I thought he ran a blinder in the manifesto on ground that definitely would have been quicker than ideal. I actually watched it with Evan Williams. We were on the same table at a lunch on the Thursday, and he was convinced that he was changing his legs that much as he was approaching the fences, which was fascinating to listen to Evan as we were watching it together. And I think back on a softer surface next year, I'd probably sit on the fence in between yourself and Scu, and I think the intermediate trip is what he wants, but a positive ride. So a track like Aintree over fences would always suit him. He's on a mark of 155. I'd love to see him have a go at the Paddy Power, to be honest. I think Stage Star won off 155 a couple of years ago. Whether that's the case, they might take an easier option given his limited experience. Maybe go to Carlisle for something like the Colin Parker to begin with, but it wouldn't surprise me if he ended up in races like the Ascot Chase and eventually, hopefully, the Ryanair and maybe back to Aintree for the Melling.
Yeah, definitely. We'll touch on the Trainers' Championship a bit when we come on to our preview and how close it is getting between Mullins and Skelton. But I just want to touch, obviously, you have a connection with the Ollie Murphy yard. Sean Bowen is going to be crowned champion jockey for the first time over jumps, and yeah, just your thoughts on him as a jockey.
He's fantastic. To be fair, he was unfortunate last year. Obviously, injury cost him. We assume that injury cost him the title when he had that fall at Aintree on Boxing Day. Thoroughly deserved title this year, first time champion for Sean. I think the way his peers and his weighing room colleagues talk about him speaks volumes for him, not just in terms of his ability in the saddle, but just as a man. He's a top class guy. Obviously icing on the cake yesterday with the Irish Grand National success, but he's put up some unbelievable performances. I actually posted a couple of weeks ago saying I think he could have a Ryder season competition for himself this year. If you think back to Booster Bob at Newbury, that was just unbelievable. Shared, obviously wasn't for Ollie, but for Harry Derham at Plumpton a couple of Sundays back was an incredible ride. Non-bias, but he thought he was fantastic on Go Dante when he won his second Imperial Cup. What I would say is had 96 of his 172 winners in Britain have been for Ollie this season. I think if he could just get 4 this week, it'd be nice for him to have just round that off with 100 winners as the pair. And I think they'll go up with quite a strong hand to Perth, especially if the rain arrives this week.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be touching more on Sean Bowen's exploits in Racing Recap. So Paul, the main race to start with, as you touched on, is the Irish Grand National. A brilliant performance by Haiti Couleurs. Rebecca Curtis brought him over, won at the Cheltenham Festival and managed to back it up at Fairyhouse.
He did, yeah. He'd gone up £5 for that win. He won the national and chased off 136. Ran off his British mark, off the same mark of 141 yesterday at Fairyhouse. And it was a jumping performance from the front. If you compare fellow novice Guy de Bourbon, who ended up going off favourite, was well supportive of the race. If you compare their jumping throughout, you'll see the complete difference. And I think his performance actually in third deserves marking up. His form's been a little bit his jumping's been a little bit questionable throughout the whole season, and probably did well to finish it as close as he did. Haiti Couleurs is actually a horse who's been on my radar since the back end of last season. He won a novice hurdle, which we sponsored at Bangor on D under a penalty. He was good that day, and I thought he'd develop into a better chaser. And he certainly hasn't let that opinion down throughout this season. I would imagine maybe be high 140s now after that. So where you go, I think he's gone into favouritism for the Grand National. But I know Rebecca Curtis a couple of times has already mentioned she thinks she lives in hope that he will develop into a Gold Cup contender. So if that's the case again, it'd be interesting to see where he starts off. You'd imagine the Coral Gold Cup, the old Hennessy, might be an ideal track for him as well. With his prominent running style and his good jumping, you would imagine him being well suited to Newbury, but he's done nothing but improve. And credit to Rebecca Curtis as well. She's had her best season since 2016, 2017. In Britain, she's had 20 winners from just 102 runners, which is a fine strike rate. It was her first winner in Ireland since the Punchestown Festival of 2016. I think Irish Cavalier won the novice handicap chase there that year. So she's shown before, if you give her the ammunition, Rebecca can certainly train, and she seems to excel with stayers, in particular staying chasers.
Yeah, I remember 10 years or so ago, you had at Fisher's Cross, you had a Phelan's Boy, you had Irish Cavalier, Lisnagar Oscar. She had some brilliant horses coming through.
She had a few bad years, didn't she? Obviously, I think she contemplated giving up. I think as well. Had those barren years, but to come back as she has this year, brilliant. She doesn't have those big owners either. She obviously used to have JP McManus, doesn't have that support anymore. But maybe a few owners will be thinking, I might give a few horses to her now because she's proved that she can do it, given the ammunition, certainly. Yeah,
and on the topic of JP McManus, any second now, just a huge shout to him. Yeah, I mean, what a bridesmaid he's been.
I know, I was looking, when I saw the entry to the race earlier in the week, I thought, is that any second now? He ran the National all those years ago. But yeah, was he placed in 2 Grand Nationals, placed in 2 Irish as well now? Yeah. Just didn't get that one he deserved, that big win. But that was a fun, and he was closing at the line, wasn't he? I mean, I'm sure was probably easing off a little bit in the last 50 yards. But yeah, a massive run. He's retired now, isn't he? Quite deservedly so, I think, 13 years of age, but being a grand servant.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Guy de Bourbon was the one to note for me. I just thought the difference in the jumping, like you said, between those 2 novices, was marked really. Guy de Bourbon, I think, just appreciates that bit of softer ground. I think that's probably a bit of an excuse for what he's done on the season so far. One horse that absolutely relishes a test at Fairyhouse is Spindleberry. Won the Willow Warm Gold Cup, first mare to win it since 2005. Just brilliant form at the track. She was second behind Jay DeGruzzi last year. What are your thoughts on her going forward? Yeah,
I thought it was a good performance. Probably didn't take as much winning as is often the case. I thought maybe with Atlantique coming down early was a bit of a shame, especially as he'd beaten runner-up Firefox earlier in the season, so there might have been a form line there. I know he disappointed when we seen him last time at the Dublin Racing Festival, but he'd been kept fresh for the race, so it was a bit of a shame that he came down, but Spindleberry could do no more than she done. Like you say, she's 3 from 3 over fences. I thought Danny Mullins gave her a confident ride. Once he noticed Atlantique had come down, he was happy to sit off Champ Kylie. Because at one stage down the back, I thought the front runner was getting away from her a little bit, but it's a good ride from Danny Mullins. As you say, good course form, looks a likely contender for next year's Mares Chase, despite the fact she's never been to Cheltenham. I'd just say the one proviso there, maybe all of her successes under rules have been on a right-handed course. As you say, she excels at Fairyhouse. Although she did win a point-to-point at Dromahan, which is a left-handed track, although if I remember rightly, she did shift a little bit right late on. So whether there's anything in that, so it'll be interesting to see how Willie plots her course next season.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? That Mare's Chase at Cheltenham's never the strongest sort of contest for Willie Mullins to skip that in order to go for this race kind of just shows that he does have an eye on everything, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's extraordinary, wasn't it? I think she was the biggest. I think it was 3-1, but she was the biggest price of his trio in the race because of Champ Kylie and Il Atlantique that Paul mentioned there as well. But yeah, I've got that as a bit of a ferry house specialist looking at her form, but Paul was right to point out the point-to-point one as well. But yeah, going forward, she's only 7, isn't she? So you'd imagine she could be set fair for another big season next time around.
Yeah, another progressive Willie Mullins mare is Aurora Vega, recorded first Grade 1 success in this, stayed on well to beat a UK raider in That'll Do Moss. She's now 16-1 with Bet365 for the Mares Hurdle next year at Cheltenham.
Difficult to make. Not sure about the form because obviously some of the big guns flopped. The big Westerner flopped, and Air of Entitlement didn't seem to run her race either. So it was just a strange sort of race. But look, give the winner some credit. Obviously 12-1, you don't get too many going off that price, do you, with Townend for Mullins in Grade 1s. But obviously she wasn't that strongly fancied to win. But with the other horses that ran at Cheltenham flopping, then she took her chance well. But yeah. You'd be hard to back her, wouldn't you, for the Mares Hurdle? You just don't know what Willie Mullins has got for that race next year. He's probably got about 10 or 12 ready for it. So, yeah, but good performance on the day, certainly. Yeah,
Vega, brilliant race mare, and now an absolutely fantastic brood mare. You look back at Facile Vega, 2 Grade 1s in bumpers, 2 Grade 1s in novice hurdles, and she now is another Grade 1 winner for her.
Yeah, exactly. That's and as you say, like Anthony says, I slightly question the form maybe with the 2 Henry de Bromhead mares who'd run so well at Cheltenham, obviously a 1 second. Didn't seem to run to form. I was slightly concerned about the ground pre-race for Air of Entitlement. She seems to have performed better on a sounder surface so far, so maybe that is an excuse for her looking ahead to next season, as I think both prior to Sunday's run, both of them looked like exciting prospects for fences in their own right. As for the winner, I say she's another who excels. She's 3 from 3 over hurdles at the track of Fairyhouse, so and I think after she'd won the Grade 3 there early in the year, I think the talk was that she was going to skip the Dawn Run and wait for the Honeysuckle. She did take a chance, but again, that goes to show she was beaten 22 lengths in the Dawn Run, finished 11th. So whether it is a case of the track that really suits her or going right-handed, but yeah, and on pedigree and the way she finished the race, I'd say she'd probably have no trouble in stepping up to 3 miles in time as well.
No, obviously Vega stayed that trip as well. Yeah, there is another full sister by Walk in the Park as well, been born this year. So, yeah, that'll be in your book in 4 or 5 years if you're still going.
2 or 3, hopefully.
Sussex champion hurdle, I want to touch on. Absurde came over, beat stablemate Daddy Longlegs. This is kind of where it's then swung, particularly in Willie Mullins' favour with regards to the Trainers' Championship. Harry Cobden, I think, is ridden 4 times with Willie Mullins, 3 winners now. Yeah, nice little combination if you can get it.
Yeah, it was. He totted the 3rd up yesterday, didn't he, in the bumper, ironically beating one of Dan Skelton's. So I was actually driving down yesterday, so when I got down, I caught up with the results. Dan had 3 winners yesterday, and obviously Willie had the 1 in Britain in the bumper. So Dan made up a bit of ground as best part of, 52,777 between them at the minute at the end of Monday in favour of Dan. But digressing there slightly, going back to the Sussex Champion Hurdle, yeah, I thought it was a good performance from Absurde. Again, another cool ride from Harry Cobden. I thought last week on Captain Cody he gave that an unbelievable ride in the Scottish National to ride so patiently. And again, watching it back a couple of times, the Plumpton race, he sat and sat and sat. He was in no hurry to get there, and you think he knew he was on he was travelling like the best horse, and he rode him accordingly. As you say, teamed up there, and he's got an excellent strike rate. Yeah. So I think he won off a mark of 148. He was 138 when he won last year's county, and 146 when he was placed this year. And back in March, he finished 3rd. So again, he's probably now, he'll probably switch back to the flat now, won't he, and have his attentions turned to that code. So, but when he comes back to hurdling later in the year, if that's the case, you would imagine that he'd be going into open company more so than out of handicaps now.
Yeah, great. Some of those Grade 2 hurdles over in Ireland are never too strong. It's just ground will be the big factor for him, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's the case. And you say Willie's not afraid to run 2 or 3 in them Grade 1 hurdle races, so it wouldn't surprise me if he pitched up in those later in the year.
No. Anthony, any thoughts for you?
Yeah, amazing horse, Absurde, isn't he? Obviously, 5th in the Melbourne Cup. I remember seeing him at Chester last year when he won, I think it was the end of August. He was really impressive around there.
Unlisted race, didn't he?
Yeah, he's put in two of the smoothest performances I've seen. The win at Plumpton, the win at Chester. You know, good enough to run well at Cheltenham on heavy ground. He's quite versatile, isn't he? A lot of form on good to firm as well. When he won the E-Ball, what was it? Good to firm, good in places. So how can a horse be so good on heavy and fast ground? He's incredible. Jumps well, settles well. He's an incredible horse, isn't he? And
must be the kind. I know. Sorry, must be the kind of horse that any trainer and owner would want to be involved with. And obviously, everyone wants the Grade 1 horses, but a horse who can contest those top level handicaps under both codes. You know, the amount of money that's available and up for grabs in the likes of the E-Board and those Royal Ascot races. So he's the dream horse really for most owners going into the game. Definitely,
yeah. You can go to the Cheltenham Festival, you can go to the Melbourne Cup, and then you can go to Royal Ascot. The absolute dream. Anything else for you that's caught your eye over jumps in the past week or so?
Yeah, just go back to Cheltenham last Wednesday. I thought Jax Jr. was good in the novice hurdle. Didn't think it was a stronger renewal as can be the case, but won impressively. He jumps well. I think he'll be a nice novice chaser for Lucy Wadham next year. One of Ollie's who won long draw. He's quite unexposed in the stay-in division. He actually just missed the cut at Aintree on Grand National Day. He should have run in the 3-mile handicap there. He's only actually had 3 runs over 3 miles earlier in the season. He beat Garl Road, so that form has obviously worked out. Runs now almost like the type of a stayer that you want. He runs in snatches and on and off the bridle a little bit. So he could go to Haydock on Swinton Hurdle Day for the valuable 3-mile handicap there. He's only gone up £6 today. I definitely think he's handicapped to win again. I just have a slight concern maybe if he got left behind a little bit out of his ground at Haydock. It's really sharp over hurdles nowadays, and especially if on good ground, which he does like. But I'd have a slight concern about that. But going forward into next year, obviously he loves Cheltenham. I think possibly being aimed at the Potemps would be the way to go there with him. Maybe try and get him qualified. He qualified this year, but then didn't get into the race. So I think that'll be the route he'd take. We've touched on Sean already. Obviously had a fantastic 5-timer at Foss last on Thursday night. I was going to allude on some of his rides. We've already touched on them, so don't need to wax lyrical about him anymore. The one over the weekend that caught my eye, obviously, I think a lot of people's attention on Sunday would have been on Fairy House in Ireland, but at Cork, Willie Mullins won the bumper with a really nice horse called Dr. de Menil. He's from the family of Lord de Menil, so probably looking at the size of him on screen as well, he looks a big horse, so I imagine he'd be a future staying chaser. That was a 2-mile 3 bumper, so it could be that he's a staying novice hurdler to keep on side next year, but I really like the way he travelled out wide. Jody Townend kept him out of trouble, and he won by 11 lengths. And the place horse got a bit of decent form in the book already, so he'd be definitely one to take forward next season.
Excellent. A couple of notes then over jumps for Paul. Anything for you before we head to the flat action?
Jumping wise, not really. I mean, obviously, I think Paul's covered it really well there. I mean, there was some great action, wasn't there, over the weekend at Fairy House, but I thought one horse, maybe East India Express, that won at Cheltenham on Wednesday, might be a bit better than average sort of handicap. Really impressive again. I mean, the horse won a Boxing Day, didn't he, as well at Kempton?
He loves good ground as well, doesn't he? So it's probably the weather's probably been in his favour this season. Yeah.
I've got him down to win a really good handicap on good ground next season somewhere, but I think he's a horse that I'd keep on the right side of.
And he went up 8 this morning. I think he went up. He's in on Saturday at Sandown, isn't he, in the last race? So be interesting to see if he's
ground will be perfect for him again, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
No rain around at all, is there? So
yeah. And then we'll go slightly back in time. We'll then head back to the Craven meeting at Newmarket. Zanzoon blew a handicap mark of 83 by winning the Nell Gwyn. I think she's heading to the French 1000 guineas next.
Yeah, it's a shame that she's not going to run at Newmarket, isn't it? Because I think she'd have a great chance the way she won. I mean, the finishing effort that she put in was extraordinary there. It looked a warm race, didn't it? She wasn't fancied at all for the race, either. She'd gone off 9-1 in the end. She beat Ollie Sangster's horse, Celestial Orbit, suggesting that some of the big guns didn't run their race in that. Haggis' horse was a little bit disappointing, perhaps. Nardra, Verse of Love, completely unbalanced, didn't she, coming out of the dip? So you could question the form, but no, I really liked the performance. It's a shame she's not going to Newmarket, but obviously I think the owners have got others for that race, haven't they? So Judd are quite well covered for that race. But yeah, I think she's got a great chance in France, but we've seen before, haven't we, French Guineas, you can have a real turn-up out there. Yeah. You can have any horse win that race, so I mean, that's a difficult race to win, but she'll go there with a chance. Yeah, draw will be important. You touched on Juddmont's brilliant hand, the Craven as well, like Field of Gold was really impressive, 3.5 length winner. They've got some brilliant
prospects so far this year. Cosmic Year, John Quill, Detain as well, that we haven't seen yet. I was impressed with him.
Yeah, he looked really good, didn't he? He's quite a striking grey horse, isn't he? He's always going to catch the eye field of gold, but obviously he looked good, didn't he, on his first run last year. Then he got beat on his second start. But obviously, I mean, he was very much a work in progress last year. Stable didn't have the best of years either, did they, last year? But looking at this year, the way they've started the season, I mean, he's going to be a hard horse to beat in the Guineas. He's going to fitness on his side. He handles the track. We know the stable are going to be in form. He's the one they've all got to beat now. I mean, 5-2 is not a great price, is it, for him? But he does look a solid Guineas favourite at the moment, Field of Gold. He did everything right, didn't he, the Craven?
Yeah, certainly did. I actually think Wimbledon Hawkeye is overpriced for the 2,000 guineas after this. Obviously finished second in the race, beaten 3 and a bit of lengths. But he's available at 50-1 with bet365 for the 2,000 guineas. I mean, he's shown good form at the track. He obviously won the Royal Lodge last year, finished third in the Futurity at Doncaster. I thought Harry Davies was easy on him after Field of Gold had gone past. A few of James Owens are stepping forward from the run. You need to remember Night of Thunder obviously finished second to Kingman in a Guineas trial in the green, and before then reversing the form in the 2,000 guineas. I just thought 50-1 was too big of a price on Wimbledon Hawkeye to reverse that form in what looks a really open year. I mean, you look at what he was. I think he was 20-1 pre-race for the 2,000 guineas, and now he's 9-4 favourite with bet365. So that just goes to show how open this renewal is, really. Yeah,
obviously with the line of wins I like to run. I mean, Twain, the shortest price now, the O'Brien horses. Scorthy Champs had some good form, didn't he, last year? Yeah. A very good horse, perhaps slightly underrated. Perhaps he's around 8-1. Shadow of Light now looks to Godolphin #1, but they had 1 or 2 others ahead of him, didn't they, in their plans for this race? Cosmic Year, you mentioned, looked good on the all-weather. Henri Mantis has already won a Breeders' Cup and already won this season as well. John Quill won at Newbury. I mean, I'm not sure he's going to be quite good enough to win a Guineas, but he's certainly a very good horse for the season. Stable in great form. But yeah, I mean, Field of Gold, 5-2 ticks the box. But yeah, 50-1 Wimbledon Hawkeye still available. So yeah, that could be a good each way shout. I fancied Opera Ballot against the Craven Stakes, and he just didn't run well at all, did he?
No.
I'm thinking back on the artificial for him. He was so impressive at Kempton. I called that race when he won.
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, what sort of horse is that? I was thinking again, similar to the horse that won the Guineas last year, but obviously he didn't seem very happy, did he? Maybe, I think he got a bit lost going to the dip. He changed his legs and then faded, but I think get him back on a synthetic or even a dirt surface, Opera Ballot's not one to give up on completely.
No, when the jockey bookings came through and William Buick wasn't on board, the alarm bells came through.
He went for more City, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, Opera Ballot, getting back on the all-weather, and I think he'll win next time.
Yeah, speaking of the all-weather, we obviously had good all-weather cards on Friday. Newcastle, Lingfield, Chelmsford, in fact. Anything that took your eye there? Did you have eye on the 200-1 winner?
I was talking to you off air because I was commenting about last day's commentator was at Redcar back on the 7th of April, a Monday afternoon. You wouldn't think you'd see a horse go out and win a race at Newcastle at 200-1, but that horse ran in a race at Redcar, finished about 7th or 8th, I think, behind a horse called Havana Grey, I think it was, or got beat a long way. Havana horse got beat a long way in that. Was I think 7th or 8th. There was nothing there to suggest the horse was going to do what she would go and do at Newcastle. It was incredible, wasn't it? But it was a strange meeting, though, wasn't it? A lot of people talking about the rail bias as well, weren't they? Saying that it was difficult to win if you didn't get that stand-side rails at Newcastle. So a lot of people are questioning the form. But I thought there were 1 or 2 good performances. I thought Old Harrovian really should have won the Easter Classic. Sheen wasn't at his best. I know he did his video, didn't he, afterwards on social media explaining what happened. But yeah, it was a questionable ride, I think, and probably should have won. And Wonder Legend, who of course won the marathon, looked really good. I think he's now Chester Cup favourite, I think, looking at that. So it was a difficult card to find winners. Got to mention the Andrew Balding yard. Started the season so well, and 2 good winners against Stormstar and Berkshire Whisper as well. I mean, that is one yard that just fires in winners, all weather, turf, all grounds. They just seem to be always in form. Incredible. Yeah, started the season really well, the Andrew Balding yard. Paul, for you, flat action obviously isn't your specialist subject, but a 2-mile handicap on the all-weather might have taken one for you. Right?
Yeah, one did catch me. We'll have plenty of good flat races at Punchestown next week with the amount of bumpers we have over there. Wonder Legend, who Anthony just touched on there, yeah, I thought unexposed, staying tight, won with a bit in hand. He won off 100 there. He went up £8 this morning. If he goes to Chester Cup on the 9th of May, he'll only carry a £3 penalty, so £5 ahead of the handicapper there for him, and that will be one race I've got my eye on, because there's a couple of jumpers who are entered, obviously 6.5, who we didn't get to see at the weekend. She holds an entry there, as does East India Dock.
Yeah, 12-1 Wonder Legend in Chester Cup. Yeah, that's pretty fair.
looks a fairly strong renewal actually at this stage, at entry stage, and then obviously you need to wait and see how the luck of the draw comes at Chester. So obviously factored in with those anti-post prices.
Yeah, it was my first time at Chester last year for the Chester Cup, and yeah, the draw is all important as always with Chester. Excellent. That brings to an end this week's Racing Recap. Before we get into our Sandown preview, just to let you know, our sponsor Bet365 have a best odds guaranteed offer. It's available on every single UK and Irish race before 8 AM on the day of the race. If you take a price and the SP is bigger, Bet365 will pay you out at the bigger odds. Full terms and conditions can be found on the website. So Paul, as we said, the Trainers' Championship is hotting up. Currently with Bet365, Willie Mullins is 1-7 to retain his crown. Skelton at 9-2. And the first race I want to touch on is the Bet365 Gold Cup. Willie Mullins has lots of horses entered in this, and the shape of the race is going to be around his, towards the top of the weights.
It is, yeah, and obviously I think the key horse is the Grand National Third Grange Clear West. Obviously, as things stand at the minute, he would keep, if he's declared, he would keep 20 horses out of the handicap. So, and significantly, 2 or 3 of Dan's are down there as well. So, if he's declared, he would race. He finished third at Aintree off a mark of 163. He'd be running here off 168. Be an almighty effort, I would think. Just 3 weeks later.
Lucky, wasn't he? Aintree, if he had dropped those last 2 fences, I think
yeah.
he might have won.
Yeah, I think he might have done. Yeah.
Terrible mistake at the last.
But it was a terrible mistake at the last. Yeah, but just a 3-week turnaround, and that a mark of 168. Obviously, he's got the class to win it. But we've just run through some of Willie's towards the top. I thought High Class Hero. I know his horse he liked a decent ground. He was only a half length off Dancing City in a Grade 1 over hurdles, Punchestown last year. He only won 1 of his 3 starts over fences, and I was a little bit disappointed with him last time. I think going back up and trip might help him. Manila Kuna, obviously last year's winner. He's £5 higher. I didn't think he got home in the National, so I think the slightly shorter trip will help him. But again, that 21-day turnaround is a slight concern. And even short turnaround for Captain Cody, who's already touched upon. He obviously received that fantastic ride to win the Scottish National. He's gone up £12 as well. So I think there's a few in there question marks. Of those Mullins trained horses towards the top of the market, Dancing City would probably be the most interesting for me from a class angle, really. He was good enough to win 3 Grade 1 novice hurdles last year. Obviously, it's not ideal coming on the back of a fall at Aintree, and he did make a fairly serious error at Cheltenham as well. I thought he ran better than his finishing position in the Broadway at Cheltenham. I thought that mistake, I think it was 3 out, really put him on the back foot at the wrong time as well. But we've seen he fell and brought down Key de Bourbon, who we've already touched upon, who ran well despite his jumping issues in the Irish National. I think in terms of form, I think he'd be one to be really interested in from the Mullins camp.
Yeah, and you touch on obviously the 3-week turnaround from Aintree for those horses. The fact that Dancing City could do it last season as a novice hurdler at Cheltenham, Aintree, and Punchestown goes to say it all, really. Yeah,
he's obviously got a horse with a really good constitution, and I say he put up probably his best performance last year was in the Sefton at Aintree, and he grounded out at Punchestown. But yeah, I think of those, I think if his jumping holds up, I think the longer trip will suit him as well, and a nicer ground. So I think he'd be one to be interested in. The ones further down, I think it's a little bit difficult at this stage to be too dogmatic about how the race is going to look as it stands. One horse who would interest me further down, but is currently £3 out of the handicap. So backing horses from out of the handicap isn't something that I like to do. So I'd want Grange Clear West to come out before I consider him, but he'd be the Doyen Chief for Alan King. I think the better ground suits him. I think going up in trip will suit him. He's won his last 2 starts, gone up to £10 in the process. I say he needs the weights to rise a bit, but I thought he won well at Kempton, and then last time at Warwick, I thought in particularly he idled a bit late on, and I think he was probably value for a good bit more. If you go back through his form, he beat the mare Take No Chances off level weights in a market race and novice hurdle. She's now rated 146 after being placed in the mare's hurdle and in the Aintree hurdle recently. So there's a case to be made that he's still on a fair mark. Irish point-to-point winner back in the day, and I think progressive novice. I think certainly he's on a mark from which he can win a decent race. But as I say, a lot hinges on the participation of Grange Clear West.
Yep. So the 2 for Paul then. Current prices with Bet365. Dancing City at 8-1, and the Doyen Chief currently available at 14-1. Anthony, your thoughts on the race?
Yeah, it's interesting that Dorian Chief. I saw him when at Kempton. I think he keeps a bit back from himself, that horse, doesn't he? Looks sort of gets to the front and then takes it a bit easy. But he's a sort of horse can run well. Alan King, he's done well in this race, hasn't he? He won it twice in the last sort of 5 or 6 years. Potterman and Talk is Cheap. So although he's not had a great season,
though, with the chaotic finish, was it?
Yeah,
a couple of years ago.
This race normally throws up a crazy finish, doesn't it? But I can see the angle. The one horse I like, I'm not sure he's going to get in or not, though, is Transmission. Was he got 9.6, so he's going to need a bit of luck to get in for Neil Mulholland, who won this race with the young master going back almost 10 years now. I like this horse. He's got the Haiti Couleurs form from Cheltenham. I think the good ground suits him. I think the trip will be ideal. He's won over 3 mile 1 at Cheltenham on good ground. His form stacks up really well with Haiti Couleurs during the season as well. So, Neil Mulholland knows what it takes to win this race. So, if he gets in, Transmission. If he doesn't, Dancing City was the other one I had my eye on as well. As you say, he's got good form, hasn't he, in Grade 1s. He was unlucky when he came down at Aintree. Doesn't seem to run his best race at Cheltenham for some reason. But, so Dancing City, the solid one. But if Transmission could sneak in down the bottom, I'd really fancy him to make the first 4.
Yeah, Transmission available at 12-1. Another 12-1 shot that I like is Resplendent Grey with that Haiti Couleurs form. Finished second in the Eastern Novices Chase, obviously at Sandown behind Handstands, who went on to boost that form. Beaten 11 lengths by Haiti Couleurs in the National Hunt Chase, but go back and watch it. It was detached last under Sean Bowen. Did miracles to finish 4th. He's on a pound lower mark in this race. We've seen horses stay on from uncompromising positions in the past. Poker de Civilia, about 15 years ago, is well worth trying to find a video of. Came from absolutely nowhere to win this race. I thought Resplendent Grey will be staying on well at the finish. Quirky horse, but yeah, this sort of test will definitely suit him. A horse that we know the test suits is John Bon in the Celebration Chase, Paul. Bids to make it 3 wins in this race, currently 4-7 favourite with Bet365. Willie Mullins has a fair few entered, as well as his old foe Edward Stone, but is this John Bon's to lose?
I think so, yeah. As you say, he's bidden to win the race for a 3rd successive year. He's 5 from 5 round Sandown. I know going and doing the preview circuit for Cheltenham, everyone questions his ability to handle Cheltenham. I think that's one thing certainly that anyone can't do this week is he's on home turf, so to speak, at Sandown. Loves it around there. The good ground's going to be in his favour. A lot of those in behind him have got question marks, I think, so I think it is really his to lose. And as you touched on last year, I know he didn't go to Cheltenham last year, he was pulled out, but he was able to back up quite quickly from Aintree at Sandown, so don't really see it being too much of an issue. I think he probably had an easier race than would have been the case, obviously, with El Fabiolo coming down at Aintree, so that might be in his favour. I think he won with plenty in hand at Aintree, but didn't have to be hard-ridden to do so. So, yeah, I think he's very much the one to beat. Whether you want to be taking short odds on the final day of the season, at the end of a long season, remains to be seen. But I thought the potential interesting one was Ilete Tom. But he's got the option of running the Oaksy Chase over further. And he's got entries at Punchestown the following week in both the Champion Chase and the Gold Cup, I think. Obviously, we haven't seen him for a year, but he was a decent novice last year. I think he's the unknown, really, going into open company for the first time. Be a big ask, but if he come over, he'd be the interesting one, I think, in opposition to him. Yeah,
I know the form hasn't worked out as well as we thought it would at the time, but that win at Aintree, beating Grey Dawning and Ginny's Destiny was a fantastic performance, so it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, and obviously found the 50 came out and won. Yeah. You won yesterday as well from that form line, so you'd be fresher than everything else in the field, having had the time off. So he'd be an interesting one, but I think John Bon is, on home soil, very much the one to beat.
Yeah, I think it's around ground as well. You've got the likes of Empere Pass, Energumene, Gaelic Warrior, Ilete Tom Paul in there as well, but this is a home fixture for John Bon.
Yes, you're saying Paul's saying about the record there, 5 out of 5. He's won this race twice, 2 Tingle Creeks, and I think he won Henry VIII in the novice chase as well. So, yeah, it's impossible to beat over course and distance, really, isn't he? I mean, doesn't run his best race at Cheltenham for whatever reason. Bounced back at Aintree as he did previously, but what price would you back him at? That's the question. I mean, 8 to 11 doesn't seem like the worst price, but I think you probably will go off a bit shorter. I think you're probably thinking nearer the 2s on mark. I think come the day, depending on what Mullins runs.
Yeah, I'd say because surely Gaelic Warrior if he comes over, surely he goes for the Oaksy Chase over 2.6. I think the trip would be on the sharp side for Empere Pass now. Personally, I think
the race could cut up this race.
I think it could cut up, a good bit. I say some of the older 2-milers have got questions.
So you're telling me that Edward Stone is going to finish second to John Bon again? Yeah, 14 to 1 Edward Stone for the purpose of it in the Celebration Chase. Brilliant horse. We'll then look at the flat action back on the Friday, the Bet365 Gordon Richards chase. Strong renewal this year, and it looks as if we're going to have quite a strong field. I think 8 of the 9 runners are currently jocked up for this race. Al Nakam and Royal Rhyme are currently 7-2 joint favourites with Bet365. They both bring Sandown form to the table, as does Arabian Crown, who obviously won the classic trial on this card last year as well. Who'd you like in this?
Oh, good race, isn't it?
Really good race.
I've got my Andrew Balding hat on though here again. See the Fire, the filly. I think she's got a big chance in this. She had some good form last year. Didn't seem to like the heavy ground at Ascot Champions Day, so I'll probably ignore that run. Thought she ran one at Newmarket. She won at York and during the Ebor meeting as well. Ran a very good race at Goodwood, of course, on good to firm ground behind a very good filly of Aidan O'Brien's. I mean, her form on good to firm ground is solid. I like See the Fire. I've got question marks about the ones at the top of the market. I know Al McCann won the Heron Stakes here last year. So that form looks quite good, isn't it? Royal Rhyme won probably the worst Brigadier Gerard Stakes I can remember last season. I mean, he's a good horse, but with Brigadier Gerard, used to be one of the races you see like Derby winners and things coming back in it.
Yeah, I mean, Workforce was...
Yeah, it was a terrible race last year, but look, he's a solid horse for Carl Burke. He's got a good record at the track as well, isn't he? Al McCam is interesting though. Won the Heron, as I mentioned, for Ed Walker. Looks the possible mum. I'm going to go See the Fire. Fitness is a question mark. We've not seen her since Champions Day when she ran that sort of heavy ground at Ascot. So, you know, she hasn't run for a while. But I think she'll like the ground, stable in good form. So, yeah, why not? See the Fire. What, she ran 5-1 or something?
Yeah, currently available at 5-1. I thought the one to note here was Arabian Crown, really. Rishi was on the show, said that he'll come on loads for his run at Meydan. That was his first start since winning the Classic Trial here at this meeting a year ago. He was nearly favourite for the Derby at this stage a year ago after he'd won that. I thought it was an adequate comeback over in Meydan. We touched on earlier around the fact that William Buick, the warning signs came for Opera Ballo. It was kind of the same for Arabian Crown. William Buick chose not to ride him. He'd ridden him in all 5 of his previous starts. So he only has £5 to find on ratings. I thought he was a lot less exposed. I thought he could possibly use his fitness advantage in this race. Next race we'll look at is the Bet365 Mile. Dancing Gemini won at Doncaster on the opening day. Comes into this race just like last year's winner, Charin. He went on to win, the Queen Anne, the Prix Jacques Le Manoir and the QE2. But Roger Teal will be hoping that Dancing Gemini could have the same sort of season. Yeah,
he's going to have a fitness edge, isn't he, over most of these. Having won at Doncaster, was up there that day when he won. He was really impressive. Looked like he'd grown up a lot from 3 to 4. Put the race to bed in a few strides. Kieran Schumacher got off. I said it was like a wow. It was like that moment when he asked him to lengthen about a furlong out, and he really did. But obviously, I think Kieran will be riding lead artist, I'd imagine, wouldn't he, in this race for the Gosdens. I'm not sure he's going to ride Dancing Gemini. Tam Farner, though, she's got the Group 1 form, isn't she, from last year for David Manoussier. But again, first run of the season. Andre Fabrival Cantor runs. He's another interesting horse. He's already had a run this season. Hartem had a brilliant year last year. Andrew Body's got See the Fire in this race as well, but more likely to go for the other one. Dancing Gemini makes sense, but 9 to 4 is a bit of an overreaction. People sort of just think he's going to be the Charin of this season on the back of that. He's following the same path as Charin. I don't know. I think I'd probably take him on. I'm interested in lead artist. He looked good last year, very consistent with the Gosdens in sparkling form. I'd be leaning to if I get a bit 4-1 lead artist. I think I'd go that way rather than backing Dancing Gemini around 2s. It just doesn't make much appeal at the price.
No, lead artist is currently available at 7-2. He'd be my selection in here as well. Top rated, 117, yet to finish out the top 3 in his 7 career starts. Was outpaced by Kinross over 7 furlongs last season. This trip on the stiff uphill finish at Sandown should really suit him. You've obviously got to take fitness on trust, but yeah, I thought if they have any sort of aspirations around the Lockinge in a month's time, he needs to be winning this really, and I thought 7-2 was perfectly fair.
And the Doncaster Mile form, I'm not sure how good it is. I know it's only a listed race, and Check and Challenge was second, Botanical was third. You know, Dancing Gemini did well to win, but the horses in behind wouldn't be anywhere near what he's up against on Saturday.
No. Paul, anything for you on the flat from Friday?
I thought that race, I did a quick look at that card. I haven't switched codes yet, but I did have a look at that, and I thought the mile race was definitely the most interesting race on the card. I thought Hartem would be interesting coming back, but again, one of the horses who's had a lengthy time off. We haven't seen him since Royal Ascot when he won the Jersey Stakes. I think it was 307 days the gap will be. But obviously he won the Craven last year, first time out, and has got that classic form when he was placed in the Guineas and the Irish Guineas. He's only beaten narrowly, wasn't he, by his stablemate Rosalie in an Ireland. So I thought he had the best form and offer. Whether Friday will be the day for him, but he'd be the one I'd be looking at to take forward out of the race for the remainder of the season. Yeah,
Hartem currently available at 9-2 at the time of recording. Yeah, obviously had that setback last year, didn't he? It's just going to be taking fitness on trust, really.
Yeah, and I think, as Anthony said, Dancing Gemini has got the fitness edge there, and it's whether... I just wonder whether he's a little bit better with a bit of ease in the ground as well. With his,
there was a bit of cut dogs,
I think there was a bit of cut in the ground then. So, again, he's got that. I think there's plenty of depth to that race. I definitely... If I was having another look at a declaration stage, I'd probably be looking to take the favourites on,
Yeah. And anything else from you for the Friday at Sandown or the Saturday? Obviously, we've got the likes of the Select Hurdle, the Oaksey Chase. Anything else that's caught your eye away from your best bet?
I think, well, as I touched upon, I would guess that Gaelic Warrior, if he travels over, will go for the Oaksey Chase, and that should really suit him, reverting to a right-handed track, that sort of trip. I think the Select Hurdle, if Lossy Mouth comes over.
Which one?
Lossy Mouth, FR. If Lossy Mouth travels over for Willie, I think she'll take the world of beating in the Select Hurdle. She'll be prohibitive odds probably, but on the back of her Mares Hurdle and Aintree Hurdle success, this probably end up being a weaker race. She'll have a grade 1 penalty, but obviously she has options at Punchestown, either in the Champion Hurdle or the Mares Champion Hurdle. I think a lot will depend on... Willie was saying a lot will depend on how things lie, but I don't expect much will change between now and Thursday. So at the deficit, it will be similar. If I would imagine he'll have a couple of runners at the smaller tracks in the next couple of days, but won't make that much of an impact. That race, the Select Hurdle's worth 45,560. I'd say that's a big chunk towards winning the title. So I think Lossy Mouth will run. I think she'll take plenty of beating. The two most interesting opponents there, I would say, would be Stablemate Kitspool coming back. I didn't think he got home fully at Aintree over 3 miles, which he's only a 5-year-old. He might do in time. And Lucky Place also, I didn't think he stayed in the Stayers Hurdle. So I think coming back to 2 miles 6 should really suit him. I think he likes a bit of decent ground. So Lucky Place would probably be the most interesting aside from Lossy Mouth, and might give her most to think about.
Yeah, Lucky Place currently available at 9-1 with Bet365. Fair play to Bet365. They're the only bookmaker to price the Bet365 Select Hurdle. They currently have a Lossy Mouth FR 8-15 favourite at the top of the market. And yeah, there is obviously risks attached backing her anti-post, because if the championship has gone one way or the other, we'd had it a few years back, didn't he, when he pulled out through Mag, and then he got fined for taking her.
I thought that was a little bit disappointing, to be fair, that last. I wasn't overly impressed with that. I can see why he done it, but I think if he declares them and people are paying the money to get to go Sandown, see these horses, we should hopefully get to see them run.
Yeah, definitely. Anthony, anything else over for you?
Yeah, I'll have a good look at Friday's card, Steve. Obviously, I'm not including the best bet, which is going to be in the Isha Cup. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Classic Trial looks really open. Lots of big names in that. There's one horse I'm looking at, hopefully going to run in the Bet365 Wildcard Fillies Novice Stakes, which is at 4:10. Music Peace is a horse I've got my eye on, another anti-boarding horse. She's a Camelot filly. She won over a mile last year at Haydock, soft ground. Absolutely blew the start. She was absolutely clueless on her debut as well, really slowly away. Still managed to win. David Probert rode her that day and said, this horse is a lot better than we saw there. I think the mile and a quarter, she goes up to a mile and 2. That will suit her. She could take the beating. Ryan Moore's been penciled into right, which suggests she is going to run. Obviously, I think she's owned by Doreen Table, the black and white colours, so it's obviously going to be Ryan's ride for the season for Andrew Balding. But Music Peace, got my eye on her. But again, looking at the entries, looks a hot race. Charlie Appleby's got one in there that looks very good. The Gostons have got 1, 2 in the race as well. So it could be a hot race, that 4:10. And then the last race, I think, on the card is a horse that caught my eye at Lingford, actually, when he got beat in the winter. Circus of Rome. It's a horse trained by Richard Hughes, who lost out to a Charlie Johnson horse at Lingfield narrowly 2 runs ago. Came out and won last time out at Wolverhampton, actually. He's a son of Circus Maximus. I think he might be better than what the handicap has got him at the moment. He could be overpriced. Look, it's going to be a hot handicap. Those Sandown handicaps are always hot, but he's a nice horse, Circus of Rome. He's got a nice attitude, turn of foot as well. Finley Marsh really rates him. So, yeah, I think Circus of Rome might be one at a price perhaps each way on the card, and certainly keep an eye on Music Peace as well. Yeah,
that 4:10 is going to be a cracker. I'm hoping the declarations kind of hold up for that race. Yeah. If you look back, John Gosden has a really good record in it. He's won 3 out of the previous 4 renewals in it, including with Emily Upjohn. 2022. Go-Go Boots would be my one in that if she was to take a chance. Now, if you go back and watch the Lingfield race, she blew the start, was kind of had 3 lengths to make up on the ground and stayed on really strongly at the finish. It was quite a taking performance that day. I've actually backed her in the Oaks. She's 33-1 with bet365. She's a Night of Thunder out of Hertford dancer. She won the Lingfield Oaks trial and finished 3rd in the Ribblesdale at Royal Ascot. So she's got the pedigree, and she was one of those Gosden back-end 2-year-olds that won on the all-weather. The other one is the Oppenheimer filly.
Star of Light.
Who pretty much did the same thing.
Slow away and then made
Slow away, was a bit clueless, stayed on well at the finish. She's got a bit of a high head carriage. That would be my only kind of concern with her. But yeah, Go Boots, if she was declared. Emily Upjohn won this under a penalty as well, so I wouldn't have that put you off. And I've taken a bit of the 33-1 that's available for the Oaks.
There should be an Oaks trial rather than a novice stakes, shouldn't there, for finishing this race?
Yeah, definitely.
It's a good race.
The classic trial, I quite like Swagman. I looked back at Aidan O'Brien's record in the race, and he doesn't run many in it. No runner last year. River Thames finished 5th of 6th in 2022. He kind of normally runs his sort of 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th string. But if you go back to, I've kind of pointed you back to watch a Poker de Civola replay from the Bet365 Gold Cup. If you want to watch a mad race, go back and watch the 2012 renewal of this. Imperial Monarch won. It was the day that Joseph O'Brien, it was heavy ground, went all the way around the outside at Sandown, and searched for better ground and ended up flying down by the hedge at the finish in order to go and win. So yeah, I quite like Swagman, and that's currently available at 11-4 with Bet365 in that. And yeah, just in the Oaksy chase, I just thought that's going to be fascinating to see if Gaelic Warrior actually goes back to going right-handed.
Yeah, just go back to that classic trial. I Said is the horse I quite like in that. He was really impressive.
Is that the Valmont horse?
Yeah. Rafe Beckett's really impressive. I think he's around 7-2. I think Widlord could make the market, couldn't he? He's going to be the hot favourite for Andrew Bawdy. He might be the more sort of oven-ready kind of horse, though, isn't he? He had 4 runs last year. He was 3rd behind Hot as Hell in a Group 1. He looks the horse who's got the solid 2-year-old form, whereas you've got horses like I Said who might, and Damasus as well, who might have more improvement to come. But yeah, it's a good race, that again, classic trial.
Yeah, it's a really good 2 days at Sandown. A really good 2 days. So yeah, I like these kind of flat and then jumps. It's not quite the mixed card that we get later.
I'll be there on the Friday, but not the Saturday.
Excellent. Right, we'll be back in a second for our best bets of the weekend. So before we get into our best bets of the weekend, just a little of a free-to-play 6 horses challenge. It's available every weekend with free spins on offer if you get 2 or 3 selections correct. Prize pools available for 5 and 4 correct predictions, as well as a jackpot for all 6. Terms and conditions apply. Paul, I've deliberately not mentioned one of my horses because I think is going to be your best bet of the meeting.
Fingalbridge.
It is Fingalbridge.
Well, I think the thing with Fingalbridge, he will be my best bet of the weekend yet. If I think the proviso is very much the ground. There is a bit of rain forecast tomorrow.
Yeah.
If it materialises, I think it'll need to materialise and then some for him to take his chance. He was obviously a non-runner at Aintree on good ground in the Mersey. But if there's a bit of ease in the ground, I would imagine he'll take his chance in the novices handicap hurdle. A marker 139, I think, still underestimates him. He went up £3 for collateral form at Aintree, even though he didn't run. He obviously, at Exeter the time before, had beaten Regent Stroll and Julius the Pictons. Regent Stroll went on to finish 2nd in the Mersey. Jamie Snowden's horse won the Sefton, of course, so that form was boosted. He had also, the time before, beaten Wellington Arch at Margaret Raisin, when I think the track was sharp enough for him. And John Judd, I think actually Richie McLennan was on him that day and giving him a good ride from the front, but Sean was able to run him down. Wellington Arch came out and franked that form at Aintree by winning a handicap, beating Kopek Demi. So despite Fingalbridge not running Aintree, his form was boosted no end. So I think a mark of 139, and despite the fact that he'll carry top weight, I still think basically he's a graded horse running a handicap here if he gets the chance. As I say, ground will be the concern, and he will need rain to take his chance. So if not, might be that we don't see him until something like the Greatwood, maybe, if that's the case. But if he does turn up, I think he could be a class above the opposition in this. I did have a good look at this race. This was the race that interested me most, more than the others, to be honest, on the Saturday's card from a betting perspective. And one who I liked on the proviso that the ground will stay good and Fingalbridge doesn't run was Don't Mind If I Do. And having gone through all of his form, I was at Warwick when he was 2nd early season to Castle Ivers. He won next time, and he was really green early season, but if you go back to his bumper form from last year, he was 2nd to Regent Stroll in the sales race at Newbury. 4th that day was Green Splendor, who won the Grade 2 at Aintree recently. 5th that day was Crest of Fortune, who finished third in the Sefton and has now raised 134. So a mark of 121, definitely underestimated. Don't mind if I do. I went through all this only to see Alan King had declared him at Ludlow on Wednesday in a small novice hurdle against one of Willie Mullins. So if for some reason he doesn't run there and he turns up, he would. So we've got a couple of provisos around my best bet of the week. So I've actually come up with a horse for Punchestown next week, just in case neither of them show up, and that will be Kaiser Ball, a bumper horse, Willie Mullins's. He won a Fairy House bumper on the 22nd of February. He was given an entry in the champion bumper. I think it was probably just a little bit close. Fernie Hollow actually won the same bumper, but I think there was a week difference between them when he won it, and then went on to Cheltenham to win. He's a full brother to Dubai Ball, who's 2 from 2 over hurdles for Evan Williams this season. He's got a Grade 1 entry in the champion bumper at Punchestown next Wednesday, but I'm hoping, and I do think that he will be given an entry on day 3 instead in the winners bumper. Willie's won that in recent seasons with Ballyburn, Dysart Dynamo and York Hill. And I think if Kaiser Ball turns up there, he will take a bit of beating.
Not a bad roll of honour then. A few to note then for Paul. Just price-wise, Fingalbridge available at 4-1 at the time of recording for that opener on Saturday. But obviously anti-post rules apply currently, so might be one to wait for with regards to declarations. Anthony, who for you?
Friday for me, Bet365 Isha Cup, my nap of the weekend. Brave Mission is the horse. I haven't seen him actually since September when he won at Kempton. He was quite impressive that day. I mean, the time wasn't anything special and the form doesn't look great. The horse, the second one, Veku, I think, who got beat at Chelmsford, I think, on Good Friday for the Gosling. Let the form down a bit, but I'm going to stick with this horse. Ross O'Ryan was really impressed by this horse when he rode him last year. And said, this is one to look out for. He'd improved no end going into this year. I think he's around 9-2. And I think the favourite in the race makes the market Thunder Wonder, the horse of Charlie Johnston's, who won at Musselburgh. It was a typical Musselburgh Joe Fanning make all the running ride though around there. Nothing could get to him on the turns, and he dotted up. I'm not sure Thunder Wonder's the sort of horse I think will back up. I saw him at Southall, Thunder Wonder, 2 runs ago when he really played up at the start. He actually caused the withdrawal of another horse who got upset in the stalls because he was messing around. Also James Fanchels, who I can't remember the name of, but Thunder Wonder ran in that race, finished a good 3rd at Southall, but then he won obviously at Musselburgh. But I think 7-2 is a little bit too short for him. I don't think he's going to back up around Sandown, although it's probably the right track for him. I think this Brave Mission could be a bit better than a handicapper. He's by Frankel, he's got the pedigree, he's a Judgmont horse. Frankel out of a Sayuni mare called Bravo Sierra. 3 runs last year, promising debut at Newbury behind the Waco Kid, and the race has worked out okay. He bumped into Chancellor on a going day at Doncaster. On his second start, he was a bit clueless that day. He sort of changed his legs, was on the wrong lead for the final couple of furlongs, and then the Kempton win looked like he was learning. I think the step up to mile is going to suit him. I just think he's going to be a different horse this year. Handicapper's not missed him, rated 91, but I think Brave Mission 9-2. If you can get a bit 5-1, I think he's a solid bet in that Bet365 Isha Cup. I just don't like some of the opposition. Dividend's a horse I've seen win on the all-weather a couple of times. He's been winning sort of good handicaps, but I think he's vulnerable to a better horse, an improver. Hawksbill, I'm not convinced about. The other horse I would be scared of is the stablemate, the other Rafe Beckett horse, which is Seraph Gabriel, who won well on his second start last year at Newbury. But yeah, I do like Brave Mission for Judgmont. I think he might win the Isha Cup, but it's a race that you've normally got to be almost a listed horse to win. Remember, it was a Hand of God won it last year. Very good horse for the Charlton team. But yeah, I'll go Brave Mission. I think you'll beat Thunder Wonder and the others in that race. Yeah,
currently available at 9-2. Mine is a race that we have touched on. It's going to be Resplendent Grey in the Bet365 Gold Cup. Currently available at 12-1 with Bet365. His best performance came when second in the Isha Novices Chase behind Handstands, who's obviously gone on to boost that form. Was beaten 11 lengths by Haiti Couleurs in the National Hunt Chase at the Cheltenham Festival, but gets to run here off a pound lower. Haiti Couleurs obviously went on to win the Irish Grand National since. I like horses that stay on well at the finish at Sandown. Stiff uphill finish. The trip will definitely suit him. And yeah, I'm hoping that Sean Bowen can once again have a masterclass aboard Resplendent Grey in the Bet365 Gold Cup. Excellent. Thank you both very much for joining me on this week. If you like anything that you've heard or listened to on any of our previous episodes or this, then please give us a like and subscribe on YouTube or Apple Podcasts. We'll be back next week in the company of Jamie Lynch and Ken Pitterson to preview both the Guineas meeting and the Punchestown Festival. Thank you very much, and we'll join you next week.